Welcome, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Carlos for interpretation instructions, and then I'll be right back to welcome you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Para este simposio vamos a contar con servicio de interpretación simultánea. Para hacer uso del mismo, por favor, desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen sus controles. Ahí haga clic en el icono de interpretación, parece un globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish o español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular, tableta, etc., presione primero los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Por último, si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio o silenciar audio original. Once again, my name is Carlos and I will be your interpreter today. To use the interpretation feature, all you need to do is scroll down to the bottom of your Zoom screen where your meeting controls are. Then click on the interpretation icon. It looks like a little world, and then select English as your language. If you are using the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone, tablet, or other mobile device, first press the ellipsis, the three dots, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on Mute Original Audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Gracias and thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Babich, and I'm the director of the Tuleyome Action Committee, a grassroots group working in our unincorporated LA County community for over 27 years. I'm also the coordinator for the Los Angeles Environmental Justice Network, which was formed by frontline environmental justice communities and advocates over 16 years ago. We have been meeting monthly since then to mentor and help each other with issues in common, as well as ones specific to the communities we serve. We have worked together on toxic tours, ground truthing projects, groundwater convening, and legislative issues, as well as these environmental enforcement symposiums, this one being our 7th. We have a very dynamic partnership with regulators, academics, state, local, and federal agencies, and many environmental justice communities. We seek participation from individuals who are acting change agents for environmental justice in the agencies they work in. We have a special focus towards problem solving around many of the issues we have been working on for decades. By applying boots on the ground knowledge to the policy goals, we hope to help create a better balance that will lead us collaboratively to equity, justice for our communities. We know it is critical to create safe spaces as we work to explore and understand different perspectives and approaches to protecting environmental justice communities. Our collective work is deeply rooted by a desire to do what is needed to improve the quality of life in environmentally impacted communities. A special thank you to the LAEJ Network Planning Team. Their help to shape 8 panel presentations and continue to meet every 2 weeks as we complete this year's series has been tremendous. Robina Suwol, California Safe Schools, Stephanie Lewis, Department of Toxic Substance Control, Jessica Brown and Rosa Borelli, Los Angeles City Attorney, Mandy Bain, Los Angeles Department of Public Health, Manuel Garcia and Christopher Curtis, Los Angeles County District Attorney, Crystal Love-Lazard, Ryan Intencio and Deldy Reyes of the California Air Resources Board, Joe Liu, Coalition for Clean Air, myself and Florence Caribbean of the Tuleyome Action Committee, Jennifer Malone, Los Angeles County General Counsel, Christine McKinley, California Environmental Protection Agency, Maria Salinas, Cal Recycle, Martha Sanchez, California Department of Pesticides, and Susana Ludigas, Los Angeles Regional Water Quality Control Board. Who's in the room with us today? We have over 100 folks registered, representing 12 environmental justice communities and advocates, 5 universities, and numerous pre-K to 12th grade educators, 4 enforcement agencies, 2 water protectors, 2 air regulators, 8 state and federal agencies, 3 Los Angeles County departments, 3 Los Angeles City departments, 4 local, state, and federal representatives, and several event sponsors and founders. It is important for us to also thank our co-sponsors for their support for this year's series of virtual discussions around environmental justice and enforcement. They are the California Air Resources Board, Cal Recycle, Los Angeles City Attorney, South Coast Air Quality Management District, Earth Justice, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, Sheila Kuehl, Hilda Solis, and Janice Hahn, and especially the Environmental Justice Network, who with open ears and a passion for justice, welcomes you to this space. It is now my pleasure to introduce Sandy Schubert, who will be the moderator for today's panel discussion. Sandra?
Hello all. Thank you for joining us here on this panel today. My name, as Cynthia said, is Sandy Schubert. I'm the executive director of a land conservation nonprofit based in Northern California that primarily serves underserved communities, but I'm also an advisory board member of California Safe Schools and have worked with them for over 20 years now. I'm proud to say that. I really want to thank everyone for joining us today for the Pesticide Awareness and Safety Panel session of the 7th Annual Los Angeles Environmental Justice Network Symposium. I do again want to thank our sponsors, the Los Angeles Environmental Justice Network. I want to thank Cynthia Babich, especially the Delamo Action Committee and her work with the network, and Robina Suwol of the California Safe Schools Coalition, the co-host of this. It's really important, the work that all of you do, and we appreciate you pulling us here together. I'm going to keep my remarks very brief because I think our panelists really hold the key to what we're talking about today. But I do want to start out with a quote. It's by Alexis de Tocqueville, and I think it sort of captures what we're here to talk about today. It says, "Nothing is more wonderful than the art of being free, but nothing is harder to learn how to use than freedom." And I think it captures the essence of this panel. We're here to talk to some experts about how and from whom we can learn about pesticide use and regulation in our homes, our schools, our workplaces, our parks, our communities, right? Pesticides cover a wide variety of substances. They're herbicides, they're rodenticides, they're insecticides, antimicrobials. Many of us don't realize that. They affect our food, our air, our water. So they're everywhere. That doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean they're good. I'm not trying to say that, but there's something we really need to think about. And there's something I know that at all times, all of us have had questions about that we've wanted to find answers. And sometimes we struggle to figure out where to go. So we're really lucky with this panel today. They can address a lot of the issues that you guys have. I'm going to introduce them. First, I want to talk about just a couple simple sort of rules of the road. So folks are thinking about it. It's probably better if folks can stay muted during the talks so that we have less interference. If you have questions, we're going to take questions at the end of the talks. Please feel free to dump them in the chat as you are going. We don't want to lose those thoughts. I will take them as we're going through. I will look through the chat, and when we get to that point, we'll be asking questions. Anything that we don't address here, we will capture and we'll try to address later. I do want to point out that where the folks here are here to address general questions, they're probably unlikely to be able to address site-specific questions on the fly in this session. But if you have those questions, please do still put them in the chat, and we will capture all those and do our best to address those questions later. Okay, I don't know if anybody has any questions. If you want to put them in the chat now and I can answer them, I'm very happy to do that. I do want to turn to, I'm going to go through the bios of our three experts, because I think it's really important that you guys understand sort of the breadth of diversity of who you're getting here. We have Christine Biden with the Los Angeles County Department of Agriculture Weights and Measures. Weights and measures, for folks out there, they oversee a variety of the things that we address in the pesticide arena. They are the point person for the ag commissioners on the ground. They report to both the California Department of Food and Ag in that capacity, and they also work closely with Department of Pesticide Regulation. I know Christine will talk more about their capacities and what they can do and the information they can provide. Christine graduated from Cal Poly with a bachelor's degree in science, agronomy, and a focus on crop systems. She was born where her family had a dairy farm in Wisconsin, so she's familiar with ag. They moved to a few places before arriving to California in the 80s. And she believes that it has one of the most comprehensive, resource-rich, and transparent pesticide use programs in the country. She's grateful to be a part of that. Southern California has become her home. She's the Los Angeles County Agricultural Commissioner and the Weights and Measures Representative. And she'll talk a lot to you guys about that, but that's a really heavy responsibility in that arena and throughout the state. She has a science degree, which is required for her to become an inspector at ag and weights and measures. But as she says, the greatest skill you need as a public officer is communication skills. And then a close second is attention to details. So she's worked 21 years for the department. 5 of the most recent are agricultural pesticide use enforcement division. So she will be our first speaker. She will be followed by Martha Sanchez with the California Department of Pesticide Regulation. Martha is a senior environmental scientist who has worked at DPR for 31 years. She began working there while pursuing her bachelor's degree at Sac State University and stayed on because she loved it so much. During her tenure there, she's worked at the registration branch, the worker health and safety branch. Also, she served as department's outreach program coordinator in that branch. And she's really helped her serve as her new role as the environmental justice liaison. Because of her vast experience, she really has a unique perspective at how all the different aspects of DPR work together. And I hope she'll help explain to us how unique DPR is in pesticide regulation across the country, because California, as usual, they do things a little bit differently than everybody else. And I like to think a little bit better than the rest of the country does also. And then our final speaker is going to be Robina Suwol, and she is the executive director and founder of California Safe Schools. California Safe Schools is a children's environmental health and environmental justice coalition. They achieved national prominence working on the LA Unified School District's integrated pest management policy. This policy has served as a model both nationally and internationally. It has right to know provisions. It's got the precautionary principle. It also was the impetus for the California Safe Schools Act, Healthy Schools Act, I apologize, which was signed in 2005 by Governor Schwarzenegger. It's the bill bans experimental pesticides whose health effects are unknown. It also, it has a really participatory process that makes sure the entire community is involved in these issues. Robina and California Safe Schools have branched out since then on a variety of environmental health and justice issues, but she's still an expert in the pesticide issues. And I know nobody out there who has a better sense of what is going on out there. I've never had Robina call me and ask for insight and have her ever been wrong on what her gut was telling her. So besides her leadership at CAS, she's always a good person to talk to if you have any questions and you want to know what's going on, because her gut is great. I also wish I had the time to talk. I've seen multiple people coming in. I haven't been able to keep up with it, but I know that Cynthia mentioned some of this. We have a lot of honored participants. So thank you all for being here. I am going to turn this over to Christine Belden, as I said, of LA County Department of Ag, Weights and Measures, to do some remarks, and then we will go with the next speaker. Christine, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Sandra, for a great introduction. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me here as a panelist as the Environmental Justice Environment Symposium. My title is Deputy Agricultural Commissioner. I'm supervisor of a team of, our focus is on agricultural pesticide use enforcement. And that does include more than just production agriculture. And then we also, my co-deputy supervises a team that handles structural pesticide use enforcement. So together we handle pesticide usage at a commercial level as well as a residential level as well. And I can talk about that more in detail as we go along. Let me see if I can share my screen here for a moment. Bring up my presentation. Just a moment, please. Okay, you're able to see the presentation up, the first slide?
Yes.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna need to see my notes here. I'll just flip through it. Is okay. This is a great opportunity to introduce what I do as well as meet the community. My department, the full title is County of Los Angeles Agricultural Commissioner, Weights and Measures. I know it's rather a long title, but we do so many things to help the consumer and protect the environment. And we've been doing so since 1881. Our department has gone through many changes throughout the years, starting off as Horticultural Commissioner. And it wasn't until much later that we added the ability and authority to check commercial scales and meters.
Excuse me, Christine, can you make your screen bigger? Please.
Yes, sorry. Is that okay? Yeah, I should, or,
No.
okay. Like that?
There you go.
Okay,
Much better.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so that's my train of thought there. Weights and measures ensures the consumer receives a full weight, volume, count, or measurement of the commodities for which they pay. We ensure the shoppers receive a lowest advertised list pricing for an item or a store. And our inspectors have uniforms, but the shoppers, we kind of probably call them undercover shoppers. They'll go in plain clothes and they'll have a list of products to buy from the store. And again, they're making sure that they have the sales price or advertised price is what they actually get at the cashiers. And so we catch a lot of discrepancies that way by, again, that's going through and doing that. We conduct regular and responsive inspections. So at least on an annual basis, we hit up all the stores that have commercial scales. You see, some of these are examples of the scales that we will inspect. And as you know, in each of these pictures, you'll see the seal that's got the yellow, the County of Los Angeles, the yellow and the blue. And you can see when the inspector has been there, the month and the date, as well as those initials. Okay, so we have regular inspections as well as response to complaints. So as consumers, you're entitled to the lowest and advertised posted price offered by the store. And each of these stores are required to display the sticker. So you can contact us directly or email us and place a complaint. So in the picture on the top left, we have someone checking gas stations to make sure that you are indeed getting the amount of gas that you're paying for. We have someone checking taxi meters, and also we have someone who goes and will weigh the package of meat or produce that's prepackaged and make sure that you're actually getting the weight of what you believe you're paying for. Another bureau that we have is the Pest Exclusion Plant Quarantine. We prevent entry and distribution of exotic and plant pests through regular inspections at airports. We go to UPS, FedEx, and our postal services. We will check. We don't go to the retail nurseries, plant nurseries, but we'll go to the commercial ones. And we're looking for exotic pests that aren't here in California because we get all sorts of produce and nursery stock from all over the world. And it's great to have that flora and fauna here, but what also comes with that is pests that can really devastate the agriculture here. So that's another thing that we do. Oh, and you know what's neat too is that we actually have a dog team that sniffs packages for fruit. And so that's kind of a neat thing to have. And we've had them for the last 5 or 6 years. So it's neat. Another bureau that we have, they do, we enforce laws and ordinances requiring removal of weeds, brush, and debris. We take care of vacant properties. We have a lot of contracts with cities and other government agencies, as well as the fire department. And, you know, literally out there plowing those parcels. We give the landowners the opportunity to, of course, clear it themselves. If it's not taken care of, they go in and clear it for them. And so that, you know, helps keep down wildfires, at least where it meets the houses type thing. So that's really helpful to have. That's a very knowledgeable group of people that are out there doing that. And they also, in some instances, remove rubbish from these properties. In that bureau as well is Integrated Pest Management Division. We have an knowledgeable team of biologists who, that's what they offer is pest control services. These are mostly for commercial properties. Your average, you know, a homeowner usually can't call on these guys. You usually have to go through pest control services from like the yellow pages, but we do offer a lot of services for, and we have some school contracts as well. So just to kind of keep that in mind. Animal, weed, insect, disease pests, detrimental to agriculture, landscaping, the environment. And again, remember, you know, pesticides are only just a fraction of the tools that we have in our toolbox. Cultural practices, cleanliness, there's all sorts of availability. And like I said, we have a very knowledgeable team of individuals. And we also have some coyote management program as well. Those same group of biologists have certain city contracts, and they work with the community regarding coyote management and control. Okay, my bureau, environmental protection. As we mentioned earlier, we have structural and agricultural pesticide use. This is kind of a misnomer because we don't have any aerial applications in LA County, but as you can see in the picture below, we have a structure being fumigated. It's probably a very common sight, especially in an urban area, that we tent houses, or we don't personally tent houses, but we regulate the industry that does, okay? All these companies that are doing this type of work need to be licensed, registered, and they go through annual inspections with us, as well as we have inspectors that literally drive around and see if these inspections or these applications rather are taking place. And we go ahead and do an inspection on the spot. And we're looking at adherence to the label, as well as a variety of pesticide safety laws and regulations that fall in that. The picture to your left there is our pest detection group. It's in the same bureau. And there's about 75 inspectors who are in uniform. And their purpose is to put out detection traps in people's fruit trees. Obviously, it's a volunteer program, and what I mean by that is residents who are willing to have a trapper put the trap in the trees. We really appreciate their willingness to do so, and the goal of this and the purpose is to detect exotic fruit flies, and we have found them. And then once that takes place, if anyone has any questions, I can, you know, we can I'll get you the right person of what happens next. But it's a really kind of a neat program, and there's roughly 75 people who go out and do this trapping. Just briefly, so pesticide use enforcement, as we mentioned earlier, I conduct inspections at both in the field as well as the headquarters, and we're looking at obviously at different things while we go, you know, if it's the headquarters versus in the field. And again, we're looking for worker safety, as well as you know, how those pesticide applications may affect you know, adjacent properties, that kind of thing. And they always need to be aware of environmental conditions, as well as what's on the label and what they're using. Okay, so not only are we conducting inspections, but we also have a training program that we train handlers and field workers. You know, again, there's some material that overlaps and some that are specific. That also, like say with field workers, we also deal with heat stress conditions, and in Spanish and English. And another thing that we do is compile crop and livestock statistics, and So even though we don't have a lot of crops in LA County, we do have some. So we want to let people know about that. And then, a big part of what we do sometimes is all we do all season is just respond to pesticide and antimicrobial related illnesses and complaints. So complaints come to our office in a variety of ways. Someone may call us directly, and then we can start asking that individual questions. Sometimes that's the easiest because then we already have our list of questions that we can, get investigating right away. And also if people are injured by a pesticide and they seek medical care, the hospital or whoever is the medical professional that sees that patient is required to submit a report to the local health officer, basically that arrives at our office, and then we investigate as well. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there, and that might help generate some questions later today. Okay, and that concludes my introduction. I'm glad to be answering questions later. I want to let you know too that when you contact our office, during business hours, you always talk to a live person and make sure that we get you to the right bureau. And if for some reason we can't help you, then we also have a lot of resources to help individuals get the answers they need. And if you want to contact us via email, each of our bureaus have a general email box. And like I said, I get those emails as well. So I know that we have a really decent network, whether it's a complaint about a gas station or it's a complaint about a pesticide use, then we're on it and we make sure we get back to that person. And there's my contact information. And again, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Christine, thank you so much for that interesting talk. Okay, Martha, we're going to turn it over to you now.
Thank you. Christine, can you stop sharing?
Of course. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. One goal that I think most of us have here is the protection of the community and farm workers. And there is so much to learn from our presentations, but real quick, I just want to mention that I want to thank God and my mother for having me in Mexico. I was born there, raised. So with that, it gave me the ability to come and work in California and being able to communicate with farm workers and a lot of the community all over the state. So, and I was very lucky to start working at DPR. I started as a student assistant. I actually didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I'm glad I did. Always be brave. If any students are listening out there, just go get the job that you really want and work at it. And, you'll feel like, wow, this is my dream job. And for me, it is. So let me share my screen with my presentation. Okay. And there it is. Okay, so as mentioned, I work for the Department of Pesticide Regulation, and we're celebrating, going back, so we're celebrating 30 years at DPR. I actually started when it was food and agricultural, so then we became under the Cali PA, one of the 6 departments, the Department of Pesticide Regulation, and now we're all celebrating 30 years, so it's amazing. DPR's mission, like everybody else, every department, we are to protect human health and the environment by regulating pesticide sales and use, and by fostering reduced risk pest management. It's an important mission that we need to accomplish. So DPR has over 400 employees, and as you can see here on the map, we are headquarters in the northern region, Sacramento. We do have an office in the central area in Clovis, and in the southern regional office in Santa Ana, which was recently opened. But we have the numbers here. Let us know if you need their contact information. They're the liaisons for the ag commissioners. And as you can see here, DPR has many functions, many programs, It's a science-based organization. We have toxicologists, chemists, entomologists, a lot of scientists, and we do receive a lot of data. We make our choices based on that. And, we've actually are ahead of the rest of the nation in having vigorous regulatory enforcement organization for protecting workers and the environment. So how does DPR protect the agricultural workforce? In many ways, let me tell you. So we work in conjunction with the county agricultural commissioners, such as with Christine's office in LA. We do work with all 58 counties, 55 current ag commissioners. And they, as mentioned, they have the primary responsibility to enforce pesticide laws at the local level. They also enforce provisions in our regulatory to protect public health, safety, and welfare. The CACs, known as ag commissioners, and DPR staff conducts pesticide use and field worker inspections to ensure compliance of federal and state laws and regulations. So they go out there, they interview the workers, they make sure that they have water to wash their hands, they have all the necessary, and most important, the training. So also DPR conducts markets surveillance inspections to ensure that pesticides being sold are legal for use in California. So they literally go to our Home Depots, Targets, any stores, even the mom and pops, to make sure that the pesticides that are being sold in the shelves, they are registered in California. If not, they get removed and the company gets a big fine. Food safety sampling at grocery stores and wholesale establishments to ensure that the produce is safe to eat and does not pose a risk to human health. And this includes the farmers markets. They go everywhere. They collect samples from fruits and vegetables, sends them to laboratories and make sure that the residues are not high, they're not lethal. We have been having problems with the ones, the cactuses, the nopales coming from Mexico, the ginger coming from China, and other products that, limes too. So the important thing is that we do have the inspectors out there making sure that everything is running smooth. So scientific review of all pesticide products, as mentioned, I used to work in the registration branch. So we do require extra data that the US EPA requires when they want to register their pesticide products. So they really get upset. The manufacturers get upset that we require a lot. We want them to change their labels. When they come in Spanish, we make sure also that the Spanish portion is correct, like the English, that they don't add any crops or remove any worker protections. We also mitigation to protect worker and public by reducing or eliminating pesticide exposures and hazards. So we targeted training and outreach to inform workers of their rights. And that's something that I'll be discussing because that's one of the many, many hats I had at DPR. Outreach to farm workers, organizations, and health professionals on impact of pesticide exposures. Also, we do conduct human health risk assessments, field observations on pesticide monitoring studies to ensure newly implemented mitigation measures and adequately protective, environmental monitoring of pesticides in air and water to ensure that the public insurance does not exceed permissible limits. And I'm kind of hurrying because I have 5 minutes, but I'm gonna slow down a little bit. Okay, so I was promoted. My current position is I am the environmental justice liaison. I do conduct presentations such as this one, but I also communicate a lot with the advocacy groups all over California. Every county has different problems, different issues. So we try to be there to, in particular for me, is to be the eyes and ears of the community leaders, so I can come back to DPR and specifically address those issues. And one of the strategic plan goals is also to, as an environmental justice liaison, is to protect all people in California, regardless of race, culture, income, or geographical location from adverse environmental and health effects of pesticides. And again, we conduct this along with the agricultural commissioners all over the state. So I don't know why one of my slides was not there, but I do conduct outreach. I did conduct an outreach and education throughout the state. So I was out there talking to field workers, letting them know about their workers' rights, doing presentations all over the state from San Diego, Los Angeles, all the way to Siskiyou County, working with wonderful organizations, partner in community events. We also sponsor some of the farm worker appreciation events all over the state, the Mexican consulate. So anywhere there was an opportunity to reach out to the community and specifically to the farm workers, it was a great opportunity for us to be there. And with that, when I started the outreach program, we created a lot of the outreach materials, which is bilingual. It's on our website. If you can't find it, let me know. I can email it to you. I can even mail you hard copies of a lot of the fact sheets. We created a lot of YouTube videos. The latest one was in Hmong, different languages. Don't mix bleach with dishwashing soap was a popular one that we normally in the community, we try not, do, but shouldn't do. And other important information. Our latest one that I really want to promote is the mobile app, is what is called the CASPER, Pesticide Incident Reporting. And this mobile app is in English and Spanish, of course. It's free. It's anonymous submissions. Just the Ag Commissioner, they just really need to know exactly where to find you. It has a GPS, so you don't need to even, because a lot of the farm workers specifically, they don't know where they're working at. But yeah, it's 24-hour access. It immediately routes to DPR and the County Agricultural Commissioner. So please share it with your colleagues, with your friends, and let us know if we can even improve this CASPER, because it's a live mobile app that we can definitely make changes. So with that, I will end my presentation. And again, I thank you very much for sharing your time with us. And muchas gracias. This is my contact information. Please let me know if I can help in any way, if we can collaborate in any way. We do have a list server, so you can sign up and get the most updated. We are gonna have another pesticide workshop in Sonoma and Napa in March of 2022 already. So if you're interested in participating in that one, let me know, and we'll be working in conjunction with the Ag Commissioners in those counties. So thank you. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Martha. Robina, let's turn it over to you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I know that I've had the opportunity to work for over 20 years with our moderator, Sandra Schubert, and worked for at least a decade with Martha Sanchez and also with Christine. So I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to share our story. And I'm going to speak pretty briefly about this background, because I really want there to be enough opportunity to have questions answered. So I'll begin by just sharing with you that when I created California Safe Schools, which is now more than 23 years ago, there was no handbook to guide me along the way. However, I was really fortunate. And during the last 23 years, I've made many great allies, some quite unexpected, and I may talk about some of that. And we're forever grateful for the support that not only that we received as an organization, but that I received personally. And our organization has made a commitment to pay it forward. And I hope the stories that I'm going to share will resonate in some way and be helpful to you. And so let me just begin that on March 30th, it was a beautiful day in 1998, 23 years ago, and I was dropping my sons off at their elementary school. And I was waving goodbye from the carpool lane when my youngest son, Nicholas, who was 6 at the time, yelled back at me, "Mommy, it tastes terrible." And when I looked up the staircase as he was walking into school, I saw a man with his back to me in what appeared to be like a white, what I thought was a painter's jumpsuit. But when he turned around, he was actually wearing a head to toe hazardous materials suit with a nozzle in his hand with spray coming out. And a lot, was going through my mind. I thought, well, maybe he was just, prepping the railing to paint. But it was clear that wasn't the case. I was thinking to myself, if it tastes terrible. So I went to the school office, who had no knowledge of anyone being on a perimeter of a campus. And then while I was there in the office, Nicholas came in starting to have a very serious asthma attack, which really became one of the worst he ever had. And I just want to skip some of this because I want you to know he recovered and he was fine. And there were certainly no litigious motives on my part. I just really wanted to have a better understanding about the district's policies. After all, I had 2 sons. One was in 1st grade, the other was in 3rd, 6 and 9 years old. And, I just wanted to find out more. And even more importantly, Nicholas wanted to know, and he wanted to know if it was going to happen again. And really, to be honest, without knowing what I could do to prevent this from happening again, to Nicholas or to anyone else, I just told him, of course not. It's not going to happen again. And I was determined to keep that promise. And that is how California Safe Schools began. And it also started a journey of extensive research on chemical impacts to human health and the environment, which included countless meetings with parents and educators and medical experts and members of the school board. And that's when I had the extreme, amazing good fortune of meeting with Los Angeles Unified School District's board member, Julie Kornstein, who we're honored to have here today with us. She has always been, even prior to meeting her, a true champion for change and a champion for human health and the environment. Her mother was a doctor, and she just had a lot of knowledge on her own and was very open and trusting. And again, this was 1998, before it was popular to do so. But she wasted no time in talking to the board and asking that a committee be formed, and that this committee would work together to create a more protective policy. And really, at the beginning, it was parents, teachers, and anyone who wished to attend. But this is where it was kind of curious. At one of the meetings, a gentleman came, and he was like, all of you are really hysterical, especially the mother. There's nothing wrong with any of these products. They're all incredibly safe. And this is just pure hysteria. And so, I wasn't there to criticize anyone. We were there to try and find a resolution and work together. And I asked him if his children attended any school or what was his affiliation. And he said, my name is Mr. Orange, and I'm from Monsanto. And I thought, whoa, that's really fascinating. Somebody that has a financial interest is actually here at meetings, public meetings, to try and change the course of a policy being created. And again, thanks to Julie Kornstein and the board and her oversight, anyone that had a financial interest was not able to participate in this process. I also want to just say for a moment that Sandra Schubert was an amazing part of drafting that policy. And it would not be what it is today without her. And so 1 year to the date that these groups began, that Nicholas became ill, it was 1 year to the day. The Los Angeles Unified School District, the 2nd largest school district in the United States, which spans 28 cities, 704 square miles, with more than 1,000 sites, created the most stringent and groundbreaking pesticide policy in the nation for schools. It was the first policy to embrace the precautionary principle, which to many of you who may not be familiar with it in a very simple way, is that the district agreed that in the absence of science to prove that a chemical was unsafe, that the district would take the approach of being safe rather than sorry. And if a chemical was even perceived to possibly cause harm, then it would not be considered. The policy also included right to know about pesticides used on school campuses, including baits and gels, and extensive training for staff and craftspeople, and also for educators. For more than 2 decades, the district has not used Roundup or any herbicide on any school campuses or athletic fields. And since 1998, they've gone from 160 pesticide products to fewer than 22, and many have never even been used. Heat is the preferred treatment for termites. And one of the most groundbreaking, an additional groundbreaking aspect of the policy is that it included a 15-member oversight committee to ensure implementation. And the committee meets monthly, and we've constantly met for the past 23 years. And it includes parents, Faye Coons, you were one, community members, Cynthia Babbage, I know you participated as well, physicians, district staff, food services, a teachers union rep, Los Angeles County Health Department, which was really important to have. And we've met, monthly. And so the success of the policy and all of the oversight committee and all of that led to the Healthy Schools Act 2000, which is a right to know law statewide that provides parents and staff with information about pesticide use that's taking place at public schools and childcare centers. It is not as stringent as the LA Unified policy, but it does require the creation of an IPM policy, posting of when applications take place, and right to know forms that parents may fill out to be notified of any applications. And there's an annual notification of approved product list. Then, you never know how meetings are going to turn out. And at one of these 15-member oversight committee meetings in 2005, a researcher came and she said, I'm here to request that LA Unified allow experimental pesticides to be used on the school campuses. Now, just so you know, experimental pesticides are pesticides whose health impacts are unknown. However, she claimed that they were stronger and we use less and therefore they're safer. Well, the committee, really laughed her out of the room, understanding that all of these efforts, if it's stronger, it's certainly far more toxic. And so that led me, and it haunted me after that meeting, because as she was leaving and we said, no, thank you, she said, that's okay, because I have plenty of other school districts lined up and I'm already using Ventura County schools. Well, that again, like I was saying, really, I couldn't sleep after I heard that. And shortly after, Assemblywoman Cindy Montanez met with us, and she said she'd like to carry a bill. And the bill is called AB 405. And all of these links for the LA Unified Policy, the Healthy Schools Act, and AB 405 are in the chat room. But what this does, the AB 405, is it prevents experimental, conditional use, both of which have no health impacts known, and phased out products from being used on school grounds. And the reason that it was really important to include the phased out products was that the phased out products, oftentimes they're deemed to be highly toxic. And I wondered, and they can no longer be used, but I wondered what the disposal process was. And it was extremely alarming when I asked both the federal and state government what the process was. And they said that they would like everyone to continue using them until their supplies depleted. So that's why we wanted to add that as well. All of these efforts have required dedicated team effort and respectful interactions with diverse parties. And telling all of these stories may seem like sprints, but honestly, in reality, it's been a very long marathon, but I've got great shoes and am committed to continue going. And while our work has begun, as Sandra said, with pesticides, it's continued to expand. And we want to continue helping vulnerable communities. And we're here to help you if you need us. Thank you so very much for your time today. Our children have no lobbyists, they have no war chest, and they have no vote. And they depend on adults to help them. And we are committed to doing just that, and we hope you are too. Thank you.
Robina, thank you so much for your remarks, Christine and Martha also. So we're at a little bit for 1:51. So we do have a little time for questions. A couple have come through. One had to do with, was directed toward ag commissioners, but I'm going to direct it towards DPR because I think it's more appropriate there. The status of chlorpyrifos and where DPR is on that and why that has taken so long. If you can give a couple remarks on that process.
Yes, at the beginning of this year, chlorpyrifos has been banned. It's no longer could be used. But what Bianca was asking is why it took so long to have this done. It took over 20 years or 20 years. If it was a cancer-causing chemical, and in fact it is. So, you know, just like many things in life, unfortunately, they do take a while. You know, it's just not black or white. It takes a lot of politics between everything. In particular, the farmers themselves, they were, you know, levying that the applicators, because it's a restricted materials, that the applicators were really well trained, that no pesticide drift, specifically from this chemical, would be drifting to communities and in particular affecting children. So thanks to Governor Newsom, to Kelly PA Secretary Bloomingfield, this has been banned and is no longer being used.
Thank you very much. Another question we had, and maybe somebody can explain this. There's a, give folks a little overview. It's my understanding there's a new statewide notification project that's been recently released, and folks wanted to know sort of the Marta and Christina and Robina's position on that.
Well, I'll start since it's a state notification system that is being proposed. In the state budget, DPR received $10 million to create the notification system. We just finished conducting focus groups with different stakeholders, with growers, regulatory agencies, the community, to get their input. So right now we're going over those, and we are going to be, the next step is going to be, we're going to be conducting workshops throughout the state also to get the input, in particular more from the communities. And we'll be having interpretation. So we are still, you know, we're open for any comments, send us your letters, send us your information. We welcome that. And our website has plenty of information on how to do that. So the question was from LA, you know, how are they receiving the notification?
So thanks, Martha. There was and somebody also asked about ag commissioners. So I thought we just touched on this to clarify. What are the ag commissioners' role in this statewide notification project?
Christine?
Do they have a role?
We do. So we've had some direct requests regarding the notification system. So I actually initially became aware of that kind of groundswell of interest to get that taken care of, the notification to the community, as well as And then when I kind of kicked it up to this, our state liaison, each of our county ag commissioners' offices have state liaisons that we work with very closely to kind of get an idea of what the state is doing. And what I mean by the state Department of Pesticide Regulation. So we are working closely with them to see the best way to approach the notification system. And part of it too is we want to work with other counties and see how they are approaching the notification system so that we are consistent and transparent in what we're receiving and be able to again give that to the communities.
Thank you. That's very helpful. One, we have a participant that asked, and I'm not naming participants. I just, because I don't know if everybody wants to be named, but when LA County does inspections in grocery stores, are the grocery stores in EJ communities more often out of compliance than those that are not located in the EJ communities? Do we know this?
I don't offhand. I would have to look into it more. Now, when you're talking about inspections at grocery stores, you're referring to the scales, that type of thing that I talked about, or I'm
Or
assuming
the,
side
yeah.
of use enforcement, right? You're talking about the scales and whether or not the products are, the advertised price type thing.
Yeah, we should clarify. The Ag Commissioner does not do the public health inspections. That's the Department of Public Health. So
Yes, good point. Yeah, thank you, Sandra. That's a good point. So yeah, when you're talking about health, public health would handle that. As far as inspections, we're looking at, sales of products. That would be something that we would handle. And the original question of whether or not they're more out of compliance than other communities, I'd have to look into that more. And if someone wants to extend that to me, I could get to the right resources to get better answers for you.
So it's my understanding we are capturing the questions, so we can forward that on. And I believe we might be able to give you the contact information of our participant that's asking the questions. So we'll work on that, okay?
Thank
So
you.
unfortunately, we're at 1:58, and I know a lot of people have to go somewhere too. So I'm going to turn it over to Robina to close the session. If anybody else has any questions, please get them in there, and then we will do our best to capture them and respond to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. Thank you to all the attendees, to our moderator, Sandra Schubert, to our panelists, Christine Belden and Martha Sanchez, to the Department of Pesticide Regulation for providing us with Carlos, who is our wonderful translator, and to Andrew, Carlos Diaz de Leon, for those, because he's remarkable and we're grateful to have you, and to Andrew Trans 10 for also assisting in Carlos being here today. For tech support, we cannot say enough thank yous to Crystal Love Lazard from the California Air Resources Board, to Stephanie Lewis at DTSC for assisting us with our chat. We want to remind you that October 20th, there's a land use policy, and please join us then for further information. Feel free to contact Cynthia or I. We thank you so much for being here today, and all the best to you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Good job.
Thank you, everyone.